city address.
Gotcha.
Transportation from there, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
I guess, is this gonna be the only time that we are able to issue a statement?
Oh, no.
Or,
And I mean, you can, but no, I mean,
okay,
we'll have more meetings, plus it's gotta go to council, so it's not anywhere near done. So,
What are you just talking about tonight?
Like in
Oh, yeah.
this particular meeting.
yes, this would be the only time, yes.
Appearances on time.
Yes.
Technically, we can talk.
Yes, it's not anywhere.
Yep, for tonight, yes.
I guess I would like to speak.
Sure.
My name is Doug Kearney, and my wife and I reside at 809 Owen Road. And I believe that still is the route that is being proposed. So, but I certainly appreciate the man that spoke before me, and we do need to address his issues. But I don't think it's to be putting the bus down certain roads in Monona. There currently is a system of buses in Madison. I'd like that to expand a bit on Monona Drive and Broadway. And I'm not sure, Nichols Road used to be used. Not sure Dean Road used to be used, but those buses currently, exhibit similar types of traffic. So, but anyway, just wanted to make a presence, and of course, I'm opposed to the new route, but I'm in favor of a system that works for the people that need it.
Okay.
So I think if we spend more time cumulatively putting our efforts towards devising something that's going to work for people, than to spend so much time trying to convince people of certain roadways, I think the time would be better spent. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet.
Thanks.
And you guys up here, I think I've seen several of you folks and I haven't been to all the meetings, excuse me. But yes, and you've been to all the meetings, and so I do appreciate your time. I mean, I'm sure you're tired tonight. You don't really want this meeting. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks very much. Anyone else? All right, no one online? No one in the queue? No one's signed anything. All right. So with that, we'll close the public appearance portion of the meeting, and we have no unfinished business. So for new business, we have the transit survey results and review. So I think, hey, did you want to speak to the review portion at this point? Because I know we've been kind of working on the methodology and
Sure.
going through and digging through all the details.
Yeah, can we share paper copies with the audience?
Yep.
If people like them? I've got 3.
Oh, sure.
You guys want to take a look at it with us? Because really what we're trying to, you guys are okay sharing.
Yeah.
Good, thanks. I made an assumption that you did this with your lovely wife.
Just for the folks that have a copy, there's a lot of raw data in there too. So by all means, there's lots of information in there. So
Yeah, this was online too.
okay, yeah, so there's some.
Yeah. So I guess first of all, to give a really high level overview of the survey, we sent this out digitally and also with paper copies via SurveyMonkey and with paper copies at a number of places in Monona. We received, try to scroll down to 873 responses to the survey. Looking through those responses, all of those responses were valid responses, meaning they answered some of the questions. So we count all 873 of those in this report. So there were no, if we had responses from testing or those sorts of things, we would have removed them. None of that was here. So the number is 873.
And I just wanted to clarify, you have professional experience with,
Yes.
yeah, I wanted to just qualify that.
Oh, sure, yeah, so my qualifications, Adrian Ferber, I'm a PhD in the School of Pharmacy from University of Wisconsin. I'm not a pharmacist, but I'm a researcher and study pharmacy. I've taken 6 graduate level semester courses in survey methods and statistical methods. I also did my postdoctoral work at Dartmouth College, and where I taught survey methodology to Masters of Public Health students for 3 years. So that's my credibility to be volunteering thankfully on this committee to help with this. So yeah, so I'm here as a member of the transit, but also am qualified to be fielding surveys, analyzing those results and helping, and then my role will shift as a committee member to kind of interpret and understand what the results are saying.
Yep.
So of those 873 responses, trying to open up. They came in between. Those responses came in between February 14th was the first response, and March 30th was the last response. So we asked key questions overall about people's opinions of transit and what they want to see in transit. We then also asked people who do ride transit, what are the benefits are, and people who don't ride transit, what are some of the reasons that they don't use transit. And importantly, we also asked them their opinion about the proposal to make changes to transit in Monona, which we talked at length at like many of our meetings. I'm not going to go into what the details of that proposal are, but we asked, are you in favor or opposed to it? And then tried to dig down a little deeper to figure out what might be the strongest benefit of the proposal and what might be their biggest concern with the proposal. So that's kind of at a high overview what the survey was about. As we dig into the survey, the next question is, how accurately do we think that these survey results represent the voices of people in Monona? So we don't know that for certain, but there's a couple ways that we can kind of try and figure that out. First of all, we know that the population of Monona is around 8,800 people, which means that approximately 10% of the residents of Monona submitted a response to this transit survey. In comparison to other surveys of this type, that is a very good response rate. I don't know exactly what it is, but I would say it's probably as good as what we did for the San Damiano survey. And I, in my experience, would consider a 3 or 4% community response rate on a survey to be strong. So I'm very impressed with how well the committee and the city did getting word out about this survey and getting responses from our community. The other thing that we can look at to see is we can look at some of the ages of different individuals. And there's a table on page way at the end of the handout that compares what we know about the current census of people in Monona compared to the residents who responded to the survey. And so what we see there is, first of all, we did not ask people under the age of 18 to respond to the survey. So we do not hear the voices of children in this survey. And because of that, there's proportionally more responses from adults 18 to 64 and older adults 65 and older, but are in proportion to one another. So it seems like a broad sampling of people of ages across our community responded to the survey, and about 10% of the community responded to the survey. So that's unfortunately the only real 2 things that we can figure out to see how well this response reflects Monona. And from my opinion, it seems to be a strong representative group of people in Monona responded to the survey. I see no red flags that, that there's a huge bias or anything in the responses here. So then as we say that yes, we do think that this represents the voice of people in Monona. And so we can kind of now dig into more of the results to understand what people are saying about transit. I'm not going to go through every single detail, but the couple things I do want to highlight that I think are important is, first of all, in question 5, we asked about people's use of transit. And in question 5, we see the response that 69.85% of respondents do not use any local bus transit anywhere in the Madison metro area. And so conversely, we have roughly 30% of the survey respondents, if I'm doing the math right, yes, that are using transit in our community. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind as we go forward, that it's about 30% community, yes, use the bus, and 70% do not. The next question I think is rather interesting is the diversity of responses that we saw to question 7. If you or anyone in your household or employees have no interest or need to ride a bus, why? And so this kind of tells us where opportunities as a transit commission, where are some opportunities for us to make improvements in the whole transit system, whether it does or doesn't apply to this specific proposal. And so certainly we see some portion of people that lack confidence in the bus schedule, and that's a great opportunity to improve. There is some concern that people have about safety and comfort while standing at bus stops. Also another place that this committee, I think, can think about ways that we can improve as we continue to develop transit. So that I just kind of wanted to point out those kind of signals as being pretty strong things that are telling us that those are improvements we can make in our system that might reduce some of the barriers or points of resistance. I'm skipping then down. We do ask a lot about how people use the bus and what makes them more or less likely to ride the bus. Let me ask, do you guys want to dig into those kind of things, or should we kind of get to the real meat of it, which is
I think,
people's opinions on transit?
yeah, I think we should get to the meeting.
Okay,
Right.
let's dive into the meat of it.
Yes.
Yeah, because we know a lot about people's different preferences. Good. So then as we get to, 3 key questions that I think we're going to dig into in some detail here. Question 17 asks, overall, how supportive are you of the proposed changes to transit in Monona? Question 18 asks, in your opinion, what's the most important benefit of the proposed changes to transit? And then question 19 asks, what is your biggest concern about the proposed changes to transit? First and most important thing I think to notice about this question is that 814 people answered the question out of the 872 responses, right? So that means there are some people that did not respond to this question. Okay, so the number of responses has changed slightly. And similarly, there's slightly fewer people that answered question 18 and question 19. So as we look at the first key question, overall, how supportive are you of the proposed changes in transit? Just to kind of quickly go over the key results, 22% were favorable, 18.5% were favorable, 9.8% were neutral, 5.16% did not have a preference. Then there were 13% opposed and 31% strongly opposed. So the chart above shows kind of one way to look at that data. Alternatively, if you go to the back of the report, I've included a different way of looking at the data that shows people's opinions on a right and left sliding bar. So it's the same kind of data, but we can kind of see how it falls. Are people more or less supportive? I think it's a little bit easier to understand data like this. This is called a stacked sliding bar chart, and it's often used in these kind of survey questions where you ask people's opinions. So Mark, it'll be like, yeah, and then like 2 pages earlier, or 2 or 3 pages earlier than that, you'll see the overall response. You know, and from that, we see that, so first of all, in these analysis, people that did not have an opinion were neutral on the proposal, have been set aside into a pool for analysis later. We're really looking at the people who are opposed, strongly opposed, or favorable and strongly favorable to understand. And we really see this very even divide of people who are favorable and people who, survey respondents who are favorable and survey respondents who are opposed to this proposal. Which I think, you know, for me reflects a lot of what we've been hearing in a lot of our meetings and from a lot of different opinions. So now the question is kind of how do we dig into that and understand why? You know, the biggest benefit as we continue looking at the responses to questions 18 and 19, the biggest benefit that people tell us is the availability of transit. 48.5% of the respondents say that, so we switch over to. Yep, 48.5% of the respondents say that having transit available is the most important benefit of the proposal, which, you know, I think to me, that's a really important signal that people want some kind of transit, and we again need to figure out how we can do it. Then if we look at the question 20, or excuse me, question 19, what is your biggest concern about the proposed changes? We see public safety coming out as being important to 21.5% of the responses. So there is a concern about this proposal, maybe changing safety. It's also important to note that there's all of these other responses. And for right now, we just got the survey closed 2 weeks ago, and we're able to present the quantitative results to the survey, but we haven't been able to dig into all of the free text responses yet and understand what those folks are saying are their other biggest concerns about the transit proposal. So looking ahead, we should be able to understand better what's going on in on that question. So one task that we had, that I had taken on after the last meeting was we wanted to understand better. People gave us these opinions as being favorable or opposed to the transit, and we wanted to kind of break those down by different factors that people were, other information in the survey. Are there differences by age? Are there differences by whether or not people live on the bus on the proposed route or off the proposed route? Differences between people responding who are residents of Monona versus employers or workers who work in Monona. And also looking at if people have differences of opinion based on, what's that one I'm forgetting? Oh, if they're a bus user or not. So those are some of the last pages in the report, and we can take a look at that. Workers seem to be in favor. So as I'm looking, workers seem to be more in favor of the proposal. Residents are very balanced, and employers seem to be opposed. One caution I would say is the numbers of responses in each of those categories is small, right? Most of the people responding to this are residents of Monona, not workers or employers. Similarly, if we look at ages, there's a slight trend that younger individuals or younger survey respondents are more in favor of the survey proposal. And older respondents are slightly less in favor of the proposal. And similarly, we see that people who do ride the bus are much more in favor of the proposal than people who do not ride the bus. And then I had a crude measure, admittedly, so people in the survey it said what block did they live on and what street they live on. And so I was able to say, you know, the proposed route goes on these streets, and if they responded that they lived on that street, I considered them on the bus route. And we're able to look at, were there differences in opinion for people that lived on the bus route versus off? And I didn't see a big shift there, but again, it's not the easiest measure to know if somebody's on or off the route. So I think I will pause there and open up for conversation.
Yep.
So that's a high level overview of what we found.
Gotcha. Does anyone on the committee have any input or comments on what we're discussing so far?
I just want to say that was excellent summary, Addie. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Doug.
Yeah, thank you very much. I know that, oh, go ahead, Doug.
Without, I think, more time and looking at the responses, I don't know if I can draw much of a conclusion, you know, about the responses yet. So I think it's good to see the turnout of responses and get a feel for like where things have gone. But since things are kind of close, I imagine we have more work to do to dig into the results a little farther, so.
Earlier you mentioned that Brad was working on kind of a heat map, right? So that's gonna get done and, you know, still digging into the comments. And some of the comments too, as you're looking through it, it's like too many transfers, but there aren't any transfer stations anymore. Or the transfer stations are unsafe, but there aren't any transfer stations anymore. So there's there are a fair amount of comments in here that aren't even necessarily, some of them aren't relevant. I don't know how that gets accounted for in surveys, right? So,
I mean, we could look at common misperceptions about the proposal and look at a way to, you know, better communicate to the public, you know, a way to correct some of those misunderstandings.
mhm.
If we think they're really widespread.
Yeah, it just seems to be this, it seems to be just in glancing through it, it just seems to be like a trend of too many transfers. It's gonna take much longer now because I have to transfer multiple times to go downtown, which isn't the case. And then there's a couple that are like, I don't even know what the changes are. And I'm like, how did you go through the survey and not know what the changes are? Yes.
Yeah.
Those two stuff. But
I think the gold that I see in the comments is, so first of all, you know, we know how the people responded to the survey and their comments. So we can say, of the people who are strongly in favor of the proposal, what were their comments versus people who are strongly opposed in contrast, what were their comments? And I think the real gold is this subset of comments that I saw where people give ideas as to how to make changes to the proposal.
Mm.
And Laura, you've been doing an amazing job working through a lot of those to say, like, what are all these other ideas that people have given us in this survey of ways we can, you know, make adaptations. I think, you know, one of the early ones that came out as I was just reading through the comments was service to the grocery store, to the Metro Market at Broadway and Monona Drive being really important, right?
Sure.
So I think that's where like the gold for me is I think going to be found when we've got a couple more weeks to dig through those comments and find all these suggestions that community members have given us on how we can make changes.
that's great insight.
Yeah, especially because if somebody says, I'm opposed to the proposal, but then in their comment says, but if you make these changes,
Mhm.
like, boom, yay.
Yes. And, you know, it should be noted too, that the mayor committed to, you know, regardless of what route it goes through the city, that the mayor committed to provide sidewalks in the area that the bus will go.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Okay, good,
So-
good.
Where should we go from here is the question. With the data, I mean, obviously we have to have more, we have to have more meetings because we're gonna drill down further and extrapolate more information. But as far as any action this evening, there is none. It's just accepting the survey.
Something survey, you know, to the public and Hopefully they take a look at it, get feedback.
I mean, do we talk about any sort of marketing plan to make sure that people see the survey?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
And how do we do that? And what does that consist of?
We can get, might not be a postcard, I think we can blast it out in various medias we have. WBMO, Jake has a large following. And city has like
Jake.
Jake Anderson, the park and rec director.
Oh, okay.
He has a big following. And then.
The newsletter.
Yeah, newsletter to blast, and we could put it up on the, put both your analysis and then just the results. You can put them on the front page of the
Yeah.
city website, so I think we can do those, get that up tomorrow.
Yeah, do you think there's a need for us to draft like 5 key bullet points summarizing the results?
Yeah, I mean,
So that, because nobody's gonna, like,
no,
I am a nerd, I look through
yeah,
everything. I would expect everybody to do the same thing.
yeah, I mean, that'd be, if you could get that, that'd be great.
Yes.
Okay.
And what do we want to,
Yeah, that I
How do we
think would
wanna
be
do
like, what would be like the five key points that we want to communicate from the, the results of the survey? Other than one of them is obviously going to be, thank you to everybody for your effort and communicating and responding,
yes.
right?
I think a couple of other action items in the interim here are, we've got suggestions from our constituency about improvements or changes that would allay their concerns. And we need to have a conversation with Metro about what they think they could do to help us achieve some of those, because they would be our partner in this potentially.
Now is that
And maybe they
something-
can bring, I think people expect us to negotiate with them or at least converse with them and see what they could bring to the table about that.
Mhm.
And then that helps us craft version 2 of a transit proposal, that includes updated dialogue with Metro, safety improvements that have been committed to, et cetera, that we can bring back to the public.
Well said. Mark, can we get that scheduled?
Yeah, I guess when you're talking about, you just want to like a meeting with Metro to go over certain things, are you talking about? Here's a couple things, I can get a hold of them, or just you guys want to meet as a group with them?
I think we should,
Because
I think we should come up with those questions
have our ducks in a row.
as a committee
Yeah.
and then pose those questions and then have a meeting with them where they discuss.
I think in framing it kind of like the survey, we surveyed our community and here are the concerns
Yep,
and the
yes.
possible changes. Okay, got it.
Does everyone agree with that as a course of action?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, clearly.
That's something you're gonna think questions tonight, or email the questions? Do you want to do that?
The questions for Metro?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we might want to think about those for a minute, right?
yeah,
As
yeah.
opposed to just coming up with random questions this evening.
Great, that's fine.
Well, and as I said, the 2 things still yet to come are
Yeah.
this kind of heat map of people in Monona and, is there a pattern of
For like the route.
people,
Yes.
supporting and opposing the route or the changes. And similarly digging into these transit comments
Mhm.
to figure out like, what are the things that people are telling us? So I think there's a little bit more analysis work. And, Laura and Jillian and I have been Google Docking the heck out of it, and so hopefully should have something. And so I think that, so, we should be able to have something together. What do you think, Laura, in like 10 days?
So probably for the next meeting, we can discuss questions then, right?
I think probably yes, yeah.
And then that should definitely be on the agenda for the next meeting, is to compile those questions for Metro, based on the data that still needs to be parsed.
They're willing to meet whatever, so they don't have.
right. Any further discussion about the survey data so far? So I think we have a plan. But we want to also think about the
Mostly
marketing aspect. Okay, sorry. What was that?
Doug, are you hearing everything?
Yes, I am.
Going back to like the bullet points, is that something you still want? You know, I can put the survey and all that stuff on the website. Do you guys still want that bullet point then? Question things, is that?
I feel like we should have just a short summary. So, because we're not, I mean,
Right,
partially it's to make. To highlight the things that we think are important that we found. But also, yes, because people I don't think are gonna dig through this entire report, right?
No. But there's a
So,
lot of good
I could-
information in here that should, yes.
Yeah, I mean, if you give me 5 minutes, I can have you guys your bullet points.
You're working on bullet points.
You know
now?
what? One of the things that maybe it's not too late to do this, but I wonder if we could have a mailing list that people could sign up for voluntarily, that if they wanted
just thinking
updates
that
from
too,
our
just like-
committee.
Just like the other city news alerts or city news, like they're gonna be a transit.
We have that capability to do that just for this particular information. You don't know what we use.
I mean, you can sign up for brush collection updates. I don't know why we couldn't have a transit commission
Transit
update.
update.
yeah, we can, I'm sure. Leah can figure that out, check it out. She does it for the brush and everything.
Who does it?
Leah,
Okay,
she's kind of the,
so we'll talk to Leah about that.
yeah,
Okay,
so basically. So you can sign out for any transit alerts, is that what you're saying, Doug? Is that
Well,
what
there are all these, like
That's pretty-
clandestine email groups that have been started about this activity that are going around and sending out information. And
Mhm.
people are gladly signing up for it. I
Sure.
think that would be better for them to get information from the source.
Yes, agreed.
And, because then there can be less, confusion about when updates are coming or where to find them if you're just opting in to get anything that we produce.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty easy for Insight to do that.
Okay. So we'll definitely do that. Yeah. Great suggestion. And how are your bullet points coming?
I wanted to make sure I had my numbers.
I would make sure the bullet points are something that, in case the meeting gets a hold of, because we'll blast it out, the meeting's on their schedule, I mean, they're on the list, so they will definitely take a look at it.
Okay,
Yeah, because the first headline is obviously favor a position. Second headline is gonna be bus ridership.
Mhm.
And use. Third is.
Overtime issues. Definitely can't take a vote.
but that,
Laura's gone, so we typically can't take a vote.
gotcha, and I don't really think we have anything to vote on.
Yeah,
So,
so just in case.
yeah, I mean, we're basically just discussing. Yeah. We're gonna talk about these bullet points in a minute. So, yeah, gotcha. I think the Jeopardy song should be playing right now.
I think this happened to me. I tried to join last month and it just kept sitting there waiting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like, she must have something, because
Thanks for coming down tonight. Appreciate it.
Can I ask a question?
So it's always good when people come down. Technically, no. But I think I'll allow that right now, just if anybody has a question, just because we're kind of quiet at the moment.
Is there a general timeline for like a final decision and recommendation?
Not really, no.
No, okay.
There she is.
is it our system knocking you out? She's froze.
Oh. Gotcha.
Okay, great.
All right.
Moving through to make, okay, moving ahead with incorporating feedback into.
Mhm.
Okay, so top one being 10% of Mononans responded, 872 people between 2:14 and 3:30. This is a very strong response to the survey, and we're very thankful for everyone who gave their feedback.
Mhm.
Overall, 40.91% of respondents were favorable or strongly favorable of the transit proposal, while 44.1% were opposed or strongly opposed. Brackets, how many were neutral?
I think the
Yeah.
neutral number was like
Okay.
80 or 85.
Yeah, I'll double check that.
Yeah.
When we asked about the biggest advantage to the proposal, having the availability of transit was the most important benefit for 48.5% of the people. And that public safety was the most important concern, 20.53% of respondents. So that's bullet 2. What's the most biggest benefit? What's the biggest concern? And then last, the committee will be incorporating feedback from free text or from the survey into a upcoming revised proposal for transit changes in Monona.
Sounds good.
And that's kind of,
May I ask a question, Russell?
Sure.
The percentages that you just quoted are not.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
They're different from what I'm seeing on page 11 in the back.
yeah, so 40.91% is is adding up the percents of favorable and strongly favorable.
On page 11 in the back, the chart that you have there shows that there are 52% that are opposed and strongly opposed, and then 48% that are favorable and strongly favorable.
You're looking at this one that I'm pointing out.
Yes.
So yeah, the difference there is that all of the people who are neutral are in this number, but not in the sub-analyses. So if people were asked, are you strongly favorable or favorable, neutral, opposed, or strongly opposed? And so when we were breaking down this, all the people that were neutral were moved out for analysis because we were just looking at the dichotomy. But if we look at the full survey result, which is like way at the beginning, here actually.
So this doesn't include the neutral people.
That's correct. Yeah, we're just
But
trying
you're
to see.
including the neutral people in that are in
Yeah, because
favor
that's,
or opposed.
because that's the top line response, and this is a sub-analysis. So this is just trying to figure out what different factors are plus or minus.
But the
And so
number
the
that are
number-
favorable and opposed should not change whether there are neutral people involved or not. I mean, they're neutral, they're in favor or they're not. I mean, how can the numbers opposed or in favor change? The actual numbers of people are not. gonna
I'll
change.
double check the math. I'm not exactly sure if it's a.
I don't understand how it could change either. How the numbers could change.
Got it. So I think it's that you're adding up the percentages of it, the That isn't everybody that responded to the survey on that chart.
But this is everybody that said that they were opposed or favorable.
Yeah, and so the percentages, so the numbers, the ends are the same, but the percentages are out of a smaller subset as opposed to this percent of everybody. So if I say of the percent of respondents, it's 40 were favorable and
Gotcha.
44 opposed. But if we say of the people who expressed an opinion on it, that's the numbers, the percentages that you're getting. Does that make sense?
Maybe in your bullet point, then you want to clarify that of the people
Uh-huh.
who actually had an opinion, this is the way it was.
It's the other way around, actually. These numbers are of everybody who responded. Here were the people who had opinions. So it's,
I just
40
think I just kind of think it's misleading.
okay, so which numbers, how would you present it? Let me ask that. Can we? do
Well,
this in the meeting?
No, I mean, we're gonna have to stop
Oh,
this.
okay.
Yeah, I mean,
But, yes.
I just think
Mhm.
that it's misleading because this suggests to me that there are more people that are opposed than are in favor. And the statistics that you're presenting show a much
So
different, a
what's
little
the,
bit different
so what's the,
perspective.
so what's the difference that we're talking about here? The percent difference. I understand.
It's
I
the
understand what you're
difference
saying.
between everybody that responded
Yeah.
is the percentage of everybody that
Oh, everybody
responded.
responded, yes.
Or the percentage of the smaller subset of
The
people.
two people that had,
who
the two
gave
the
us
two camps that had opinions.
opinions.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so we want to probably share the overall response from the whole survey.
Mhm. Yeah, I think so. The overall, does everyone agree on that? Share the overall response to the whole survey? Or are we
If
just
it's
talking about
less,
pouring it?
if it's less confusing,
Yeah,
yes.
because I don't want people, like, as she stated.
Yeah.
It is kind of wonky looking at it that way unless,
Yeah, and
Yes.
that's because all we were trying to do with this, with
Yeah.
the sub-analysis was figure out like,
Yeah.
what are the things that are changing people's opinions?
yes.
And so we only want to look at people who had an opinion, not the
Yeah.
people who were neutral.
Oh, I get it. I get
Right,
it. And
and
also
so-
this is not done. It's also not done being analyzed. so,
Exactly,
yes.
exactly. So, right, because this would be alternatively, if we looked at what the stats would be for everyone who, for the subset of people who responded and had an opinion.
Mhm.
We're looking at 7, 12, 55% were strongly opposed and 51% were strongly in favor.
Mhm.
So it's still
Gotcha.
really, really
It's
close.
still really, really close.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean,
Yeah.
either way, it's really, really close.
gotcha. All right. So we have the bullet points done, we have a kind of a communication plan that we discussed. What else do we need to discuss about this at this particular meeting that we haven't discussed? Is there anything else?
Nothing I can think of.
Doug, Laura? Anything?
No,
And then, all right, so then moving on.
You're new.
Oh,
Oh, there. I'm back on now. I really have not heard most of the meeting, so I missed the communication plan, but you guys can fill me in.
Gotcha. So it is basically getting the results of the survey out to as many people as possible through WVMO, through Listserv, through an email list, through a bunch of different sources. Yeah.
Good.
All right. Then, do we need to take any actual action on accepting the survey? No, right? We don't have to, no. So, B is discuss potential committee contributions or suggestions to the city's ongoing and expanding DEI initiatives.
I don't really have much to update right now.
Gotcha. I mean, other than, anyways, that's kind of what we're talking about.
Right, yeah.
I have a quick question. So
Sure.
in light of the fact that Addie and Laura have done an incredible amount of work to look at the survey and parse things out, is it something that we could do where we could have like a working group session to work on this together? Is that within the like realm of legality?
I would just have to post it.
Yeah, we could, but it would have to be, noticed like any other meeting, yes.
Well, that's what I'm like, I feel like there needs to be group effort put into like sorting through this. And
It's a lot, yes.
you know, if people, I guess if people want to come and watch us look through data, that's okay. I'm just like,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Yeah, we can do it.
Mhm.
I mean,
I
I'm having
agree
trouble
with you,
finding
John.
time to work
Hmm.
independently on it. And I
Right.
think if I had a scheduled time to work with you guys as a group, I would be able to help out a lot better and participate.
I agree with that.
I agree with you, Doug. You know, having gone through the comments, I learned a lot. You know, they kind of take you in directions, at least me, that I hadn't thought about.
Yeah, and I'd like to hear what you've learned.
So
Great.
when would we like to do that?
Is that something you want to do during the day or night? Very flexible.
Does anyone have daytime availability?
I do.
I could make time.
Me
I can
too.
make time anytime if I have enough notice.
It's
Right.
usually
What
even
ended
easier
up
for me during the
happening.
daytime than at night, so.
And I don't know about Jillian, she's been very helpful in going through the free text comments, so I think she would want to be a part of that as well.
Mhm.
But she also said that she's got a sick kid right now, so she's kind of, her time's a little bit wonky.
I propose that we work together on a time
Yeah.
via email, and then when
Sure.
we settle on it, assuming it's we set it out a couple of 10 days or whatever from when we start discussing it. Then if it needs to be noticed, it can be noticed. We can do the work in a public place,
Yep.
such as this conference room that
Yeah.
you're in now.
Right.
And if we do it over lunch, I can provide lunch.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would look at the week of the 24th or the week of the 1st. So I think next week is kind of too soon.
All right, I don't want to pull up my
Yeah, so
calendar now
I'll
because
put
it'll
those
be
days out
chaos,
there.
but
Okay,
okay.
all right, I like that. That makes sense. If there's nothing else before the committee and no other information at the moment, can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Did you talk about the DEI?
We did.
Wait, nothing to add, just
Nothing to add, and actually, nothing to add, but actually what we're working on is intrinsic to DEI, so, yes.
I wanted to mention, and maybe someone else has seen this, I went to a kids concert at Verona High School. When you walk into the high school, they have hanging the flags of the 12 native nations. It's fantastic. We need to find a place to do that.
Nice.
Really,
Where in Verona was this? What, the high school?
Verona High School.
High school.
Mhm.
we do fly the whole chunk flag at City Hall.
Right, right. So it's really striking. And I also wanted to mention Squaw Circle. Who's supposed to be changing that? Because it's not changed.
We're working on that with Public Works right now. So this council has directed Public Works to start changing it. And then there's been another resolution from council to rename it in honor of Alder Kathy Thomas.
Okay,
for 40
good.
years of service, yes.
Perfect. I really feel like that has to happen fast. When I moved here a year ago, I saw it and it's still like that.
Yep, we're working on it. It just takes a little bit of time because we need to, we notified all the residents of all 3 residents on the circle for their input. And then we have, and then there's some things we have to go through with the county and the state in order to
Good,
report
thanks.
those
Thank you.
changes.
Mhm.
So we have a motion to adjourn, looking for a second.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we're adjourned. Thank you. And thank you both for coming.
Yeah, thank you guys, thank you.
Yeah.
Talk to you about like the website and like what's available on there.
So the website would be